G'day viewers, my name's Graeme Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do. Well, another great episode of Colour in Your Life is about to get underway in a little town called Ramona in California. And we're with a watercolour artist today. The lady's very, very flexible about what she does. She does portraiture, she does still lives. Her work is absolutely beautiful and she's got a massive following across the United States for what she does. Jamie Dougherty.
Hi. Nice
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely to be
Thank
here.
you.
And we're in her lovely studio here today. Your influence originally started a lot from your uncle and your granddad, didn't it?
Yes, my family's very artistic and creative, and I just kind of grew up being able to take in all that creativity and make it my own. So that's what I do now.
That's fantastic, and you've got a really great following across the United States as well. I mean, your work really has a formula of its own, and definitely a marked following in what you do. Tell me a little bit more about your fans and how you interact with them.
I teach online workshops, and I do teach across the United States. I've been to Australia, Canada, Puerto Rico, and I just really like sharing my craft with others. And so it's just been a real blessing for me to share that. And with social media now, I'm able to bring that in as also. And just it has really blown up. I've had some of my images licensed, so that's brought in another category into my fan base with my stamped images as well.
That's fantastic, and you'll obviously see a lot of Jamie's work as we go through today. We also want to thank very much two fantastic companies that are really getting behind a lot of the Colour in Your Life artists that we're working with these days, and Jamie being one of those. And firstly, it's Princeton Brushes, who makes an absolutely fantastic brush. They're based in New Jersey. It really is good, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I mean, they are fantastic brushes. I've used these guys for years as well. And also Royal Talons, who is a wonderful paint company, actually based in the Netherlands, but they have a huge representation in the United States as well. And they make a full range of inks, acrylics, oils, watercolours, gouache. And as I said, the gouache that Talons makes, I was using 35 years ago and still use it to this day today. So we really want to thank both of those companies for being part of what we're doing. And we will be discussing the different techniques that you can use with these brushes and the paint as we go through the show today. So, but apart from that, I want the audience to see the fabulous work that you do. So let's sit down and get something underway.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamie, well, you have some fantastic watercolour paper there. I can see that it's all raffled on the side there, which I think is pretty cool. But we've got one in the corner over there that you've already done, and that's what you're going to take us through in the process of teaching us how to do that piece today. So take it away, you're the boss now.
All right, so yes, we are going to kind of show you the details of this painting into here. And I've already sketched out my piece, and I used a water-soluble graphite pencil. So I'm going to be using a long round. It's a number 10 long round brush. It's a Velvet Touch. It's just a nice all around paintbrush. You can do fine lines all the way to washes with it. So that's one reason why I really like going to this size brush as well. A 10's nice for this size of a painting. I can cover a lot of surface area with it. So I'm going to just start with a nice soft wash of color.
So how do you find using those little Royal Talons tablets?
I like the pans because I'm able to replace them if I do run out of a favorite color, because I do find myself using one color more than another.
Yes.
I'm able to replace it easily. So I'm going to start with a nice soft color, just a base color onto her face. And as you can see, I can go from a very just thin line around her face, or I can use it more as a wash across to soften that color. I'll bring in a secondary color while that first layer's wet still, and it just gives it a little bit more texture with the color. I'm just going to continue going in, adding some color into her face and her neck. I'm still just continuing with this base coat right now. I like building, especially since we're working on a white background, I'm just giving it a little bit of that skin tone color. Once I have my base down, which I pretty much do, I'll come in and add a little bit more detail. Since this is wet, I will probably move on to another piece of the artwork so that it has a little bit of time to kind of set.
Sure.
Now with the Royal Talons, with the Rembrandt watercolors, I like it because I am able to build that color on top of one another, and that's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to watercolors, is because I can really create a lot of depth.
The Royal Talons has a number of different products, as does Princeton, of course. I mean, they've got a huge range of varying products. And I think we should put out a special thanks to Willow Wolf and to Mr. Howard Kaufman, who is the owner and CEO of Princeton Brushes. They have done a fantastic job of putting us together with these amazing artists. Howard's a fantastic man, very loyal to everybody he deals with, and he's been involved in the art industry for decades and started Princeton many years ago, and now it's the #1 brush manufacturer in the United States. And because you're such a multifaceted, talented woman, you made this wonderful doll of Willow, which I think is just such a character, and one of her favourite animals is the raven. So it looks like a little bit like Elvira, but it's a great piece of work. So it's sort of not just the art, but you're just so involved in so many facets of arts and crafts involved in this country. And you've also got some other wonderful dolls that you've crafted for celebrations like the Mexican Day of the Dead, which is pretty cool. But there's another one called Katrina, which is just fantastic. And then Soft Soul. So there's a certain quality of life that you actually put into a subject about death.
Yes, I really enjoy the dolls, and especially living in San Diego. Day of the Dead's really popular down here because we are so close to Mexico. It is a very heavy holiday that is celebrated here, and so a lot of the artwork in downtown San Diego you'll see influenced by Mexico and South America. So I'm coming up here and adding just a little bit of color to her ear. It's kind of peeking out from behind her hair. And I'll come in with a little bit more detail later on once it's dried. I think I'm going to move on to our little birds so that they have a little chance to dry as well, so I can add some more detail onto them.
Yep. There's a real cross-section of your work. It sort of almost heads into zombie plus steampunk in a lot of it as well. There's one called the Red that looks like a girl that's a little zombie-like as well.
That's another heavy influence from the Day of the Dead. They're called Katrinas, and every year men and women will dress up in that style and attire. They'll have their faces painted. They come out with these beautiful costumes that they've all handmade. A lot of them hand make all of their costumes for the year, and it's just really amazing. And
yeah, well, Lost Love, which is a really cool picture with the blue in the eyes. I think that's spectacular, that one.
Yeah, it's a little softer.
Yeah.
It's a softer piece than the other.
So you do these demonstrations at a number of different conferences that you go to as well, the arts and crafts conferences.
Yes, CHA is a yearly convention that they do, and it's an opportunity for retailers to come and see new product, see artists that they want to invite into their shops. It's a great way to market with other individuals.
Yeah.
Another one, fine arts one that they do every year. I've also demoed with them. Actually worked with Princeton doing some projects as well. So it's a great way to kind of branch out, because not everybody's going to be on social media. So it's another opportunity to kind of get your artwork and teach others kind of your craft and skills.
But I must admit, it is a huge industry in the United States. You know, there's the fine arts side of things, but then there's the crafting side of the business as well, and it's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and I think it's because so many people want to learn something new.
Yeah.
They want to be able to enrich themselves in a way that it makes them happy. And I think the arts and crafts industry does that. I think it really just lets people open up and do something for themselves. So I've got my little guy here. I'm gonna let him dry a little bit before I bring in the darker colors because I don't want it to bleed in to my lighter image. And I'm gonna come in and start with her hair.
Okay.
So I am gonna use a little bit bigger brush for this piece, just so we have a little bit more coverage. And let's go ahead and I'm gonna use this one right here. This is a Select black mop. It's a 3/4 inch. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of a base color to her hair. And this color is that's one of the things you might find blending with a larger brush. What I do with the pans is I'll pull the pan out and then blend it singularly this way, and then I'll put it back in. Okay. So that way you're not blending other colors together, trying to get that one color out. So I'm gonna pull out, let's see, let's make...
They've even got a little space where you can slide it along.
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
Gives you a little bit of room to kind of work them out. This might be a little bright, but we're just gonna go with it. And I'm gonna let the water just kind of carry it down the paper. I wanna keep the edges kind of loose. And as you can see how much moisture these brushes do carry.
Yeah.
Really kind of, it makes it a lot easier to move that paint around.
Yes, I've always found when I used to teach that some of my students would turn up with brushes that you wouldn't paint your house with, let alone do a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
If you don't, and I have to stress it really highly, if you don't have good equipment, you are not going to get a good result. And and the thing is that you don't have to pay a fortune for good quality brushes and paint either.
No. You're getting that artist quality without spending a lot of money. So you have a really good quality brush that is going to last you a long time, but you're not going to spend a ton of money on, but you're going to get a nice result by using it.
And if anybody wanted to know about either your workshops or any of the products that you use, they can just go to your website, can't they?
Yes, I have all my information there. I host all of my own online workshops, so they go directly to that site and they can access the classes as much as they want. I don't put a time frame on my workshops because life gets in the way. I know that. And so I want everybody to be able to create freely on their own time schedule.
Cool.
I keep a portfolio there as well. And then I do sell a lot of my artwork through Etsy, but it's all linked through my website.
Okay, and that would be?
JamieDoughertyDesigns.com.
There you go, guys.
And I'm on social media, share my artwork on Facebook and Instagram. I'm also on YouTube and Twitter. So if you ever want to reach out for anything, you can definitely find me online.
If you can't find her, she's missing.
Yes, and call the authorities.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the business part of this gets in the way because social media is so much of business now. You do have to kind of be business minded with that. Now I'm going to go in with a smaller brush just to kind of add a little bit of color. I'm going to come in and do her lips. I'm going to start with her top lip, making that a little bolder because that's kind of where the light, the way the light kind of hits her face. The top lip's always going to be a little bit darker. And a habit I have is if I don't want a lot of water but I don't want my paintbrush dry, I'll just kind of dab it on the back of my hand. And that allows me to kind of move the color around a bit without, adding too much water to the piece so that my colors aren't blending everywhere. And once her lips are dry, I'll come in with a little harsher line towards the center to kind of redefine that.
I think the beauty about your work is you get results very quickly. There's some fantastic fantasy images that can be created and it's not going to take you a month to do a painting.
Yes.
So what artists have inspired you over the years? Anybody in particular?
I kind of take inspiration from a lot of different artists. I'd have to be honest with you, my uncle was my biggest inspiration. He was also a mixed media artist. He loved doing art in every aspect he could. So I think that's kind of where I get it from. I want to try as much as I can. I want to try, and I think part of it's for me is learning something new. And his watercolors always were attractive to me. I just loved the way he approached his garden. He would paint from his garden. And living in Michigan, of course, you're gonna have this beautiful garden full of every flower you can think of.
Yeah.
And his artwork always showed that.
Okay.
Now with her lips they aren't quite detailed enough, so I'm going to come in with a little bit of a brown tone. It's a warmer tone, and what this will do is kind of mute down that red a little bit. As you can see, my images are more illustrative instead of realistic, but that's kind of the fun part of art, is you can make it your own and give your own signature to a piece. It doesn't have to look, you know, exactly like everyone else's.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the reason your stuff's been really successful in licensing as well.
Yes.
Is because you do cross that barrier where it is illustrative. And people just like that. They like the representational side of things like that with what you produce. So how many licensed products would you say that you have?
I've had over 30
Okay.
pieces licensed. I've also published my own adult coloring books, since that was such a hot trend. I have 3 out that are available on Amazon. One's a faith-based, and then 2 are surrounded around my girls and my still life and the animals and flowers. So
Cool.
It's just been another, and I think that's a really great thing for, you know, not everybody's going to be able to get into the publishing industry. So being able to do that on my own was a real kind of accomplishment for me. And I did everything from hand drawing the images to digitizing them, all the way to formatting it for the book. So I kind of took every step to make it very personal to myself.
But it's a good point that you have taken control of your career.
Yes.
Instead of, you know, waiting for something to happen.
Yes, and I think we really need to do that. If you can't just sit and wait for something to come along. If you want it to happen, you need to make it happen for yourself.
So now we're doing some fine work.
Yes, and the great part about these rounds is they're going to hold their shape. You know, some of them you may come across brushes that they don't keep their tip while you're working with them, and that's the nice part about these. You can use them as a calligraphy brush. You can use them as adding detail to this little guy like we are right now.
Now, some of the other pieces that you've done, I mean, your work's just wonderful. Picture called Autumn, and these are a lot of the things that inherently go into the licensing side of things.
Yes.
As well. Autumn, which is of a young woman with flowers and birds in her hair. And then another one called Modesty, and then a piece called Multitude, which was a lovely piece as well.
Multitude was a series, a part of a series I had done on wood, and that's another kind of look that I've been known for, is working on a wood surface instead of a canvas surface.
And these are techniques that you teach people in your workshops online as well.
Yes.
Aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I teach everything from just the elements of the face. I break down the elements of the face individually to kind of take that intimidation of an entire face away from people, and they really seem to like that. And the next one I'm doing is actually how to add color to the features. So we've started with the pencil drawing of it, and now we're going to show how to create detail with using color.
You've actually been down to Australia to do workshops in Adelaide, Brisbane,
Yes.
Byron Bay.
Yes, I have. I've taught there twice. We actually did one trip in 2014. We did 4 stops in 10 days between traveling there and coming home. We made 4 stops, and I taught in 4 places, but it was so amazing, and the scenery is beautiful there. Talk about inspiration.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, and I'm very thankful I've had the chance to go and do that.
It's fantastic. Well, hopefully a lot of people in Australia will be watching this, and we might be able to organise another one of those down at some stage.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. So I'm going to bring in a specialty brush to do some splatter work on here, and Select is known for their specialty brushes, and one of them is a lunar mop. This has a nice stiffer bristle that you can kind of manipulate. The bristles are more of an uneven shape, so you can get a lot of texture out of them. I'm going to go ahead and use it as a splatter for this piece.
So it's got just a more rigid bristle on it.
Yes, it has a rigid bristle, so it'll allow me to kind of manipulate the paint a little bit more.
And you just use the end of to flick it out.
Yep, and we're gonna start on our background.
Okay.
And I wanted something that would bring in some of the other colors. So I'm gonna bring in a yellow to kind of make our little lovebird pop a little bit more off the page. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's use a filbert. I like using the filbert to cut in around pieces, and I may actually tip my painting on its side. I like working on a smaller area because I can turn it. So you want to be able to work along the other area without disturbing it too much. So I kind of cut in first around my edge, and then I blend it out. And once this is dry, I'll bring in a smaller brush to add flowers in the same color but heavier concentration. I'm going to show you a really easy floral design that you could draw, and it's more of a rose shape. I'm using the same color I originally used for the background, and I just start with a simple little shape in the center, and then I kind of round those petals and continue around the edge. And I like the filbert because it gives me that straight edge, but I'm able to give the different depth in shape just by kind of turning the brush as I go. I can go from wide to, really fine, a fine edged line. And go flip her over. We have our nice background set around her. If you wanted to, you could cut in a little bit more color into her hair to kind of create more dimension between the two. But I really like kind of how she's looking now, so I think I'm gonna stop playing with her, because sometimes as an artist, we can just keep manipulating a piece until one, it turns out amazing, or it turns into a complete mess. So I think she's good for today. I may step away, like I said, I sometimes do, and come back to her another time, but I think she's pretty good for now. So
you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, a fantastic day here in Ramona in California. Jamie?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us in your studio.
Yes,
It was a
thank you.
wonderful, wonderful day. Very talented lady. Now, your workshops, you've obviously done them in Australia and across the United States, but the fact that you've got online workshops as well, I think is pretty cool.
Thank you.
So your website address again is?
Is jamiedoughertydesigns.com.
Okay, go on and have a look. Be in touch with Jamie and do some of the online courses. They're actually fantastic. Also, we want to thank two great companies, Talons Paints, Royal Talons, and also Princeton Brushes. Without the support of those guys at the moment, this wouldn't be happening, and we're just so glad that they've come on board. Also to the beautiful Willow Wolf, who has been very much a part of putting all this together. With all of these great companies, we really hope to do some great work with these guys in the future as well. Come to our Facebook page as well, and also to our YouTube, which is growing rapidly these days, and come into the Colour in Your Life website. There's lots of things going on there, and we've got a fantastic gallery in there where you can sell your work, so come in because we've got lots of things going on. colourinlife.com.au, remember? But until we meet again, guys, remember, make sure you put some colour in your life, and we'll see you next time. Bye now. See you guys.